talk about the dead. Ooh, spooky. Okay, so I have... Oh, man. So let me start with this. To be a being, a human being, and to be a human being with knowing, and at some point I will break down the senses. So if you're a medium, or if you're an individual who is this, some of the vocabulary I'm going to use may sound familiar to you, and that is specifically used for psychics or people who are developing mediumship skill set. Some of these words might seem familiar. So just to be completely transparent, I have issues with certain words to define what I am. However, I will state them so it's clear. Spirit and my team of beings that I work with, they use different vocabulary to describe how I interact with other beings. I'll get into that later. However, I'm just going to just for the sake of not being confusing. So we have something called the psychic senses. There's many variations to, not variations, there's many different psychic senses. At some point, I will get into it. I don't want to get into all of it because that's like its own separate experience, but I basically wanted to say that I am a psychic medium, meaning that as a medium, I can communicate with spirit. As a psychic, that comes with its own like interesting experiences. You don't have to be a medium to be a psychic, or a psychic to be a medium. Sometimes you have people who can do both. Now I will say this because I have observed it because I've worked with different people over the years. If you have capability psychically, most likely you can communicate with spirit. It's kind of possible not to. Most likely there are certain hindrances that can cause an individual from fully experiencing the range of those abilities. And again, I'm not a fan of the word, these are the senses, these are your gifts. That's not even how spirit communicates that with me. These are your soul instincts. So as incarnate death, my soul instinct naturally is to communicate with other beings, not only humans. And this is also where it's fascinating too when talking about the dead. There is no such thing as a human soul. This is where soul also gets complicated. So, which is, at the same time, it's not anything to be weirded out by. And if you're a psychic medium and you're like, that's not true, blah, 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 and then you feel like irritated or bothered by what I'm saying, relax. And if that bothers you, go. I'm not here to criticize anyone, and I'm not here to tell someone they're not doing it right. There's so many ways to connect because of the abilities, the senses. There are senses, the instincts to connect. Everyone is going to approach it differently. I am not here again to instruct someone how to connect. I've been there, done that, and honestly, it's been more disappointing working with people in regard to connecting, because people will find every excuse. I can't do it, I'm too busy, this and that and the other. I have a life too, and I work, and there's a lot of things on my schedule, and things are hectic, and I understand what it's like to be alive, because I understand. And spirit is 100% a part of my everyday. It's not a hobby. It's not sometimes, not when I get to it. It's every day. In the same way that when I get up in the morning, I feed my cat, I get dressed, I clean up. It's not something that I don't do because I have to do them. I have responsibilities and obligations. I have to fulfill them. So in the same respect into how I work with spirit. It's something that I do every day because it is what I am. It is what I am. Why does that sound so awkward? I am this. And that's fine. And again, if this resonates with you and you're like, yeah, I completely get it, awesome. And if you're like, I don't have time, fine. You have a different life experience than I do, and that's okay. That's fine. Go be merry. Okay. So being able to connect with the dead. So a lot of people get freaked out when it comes to the dead. Everyone, when they find out that I can communicate with the beyond, they're like, oh my god, like, do you see anything on me? What's with me? And I'm like, I am not here to read for you. I have done readings. This is not about you. This is not about you. So, picture this. If you know, you know. If I'm out with my friends, like my human friends, because I do have beings in eternity that are also my friends that I do hang out with. That's so weird, but it's great. Anyway, so when I'm with like my friends and we're out, if we're doing something, my focus is on my friends. My focus is on what we're doing. I really don't want to be distracted. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it comes up, because it doesn't really matter where I am, something will happen where it'll come up. Spirit comes up. Like, I don't know how that happens. Still, like, random people will come up to me and just start talking to me. And I mean, like, I look like a wraith. I don't want to talk. Like I said, like, I'm focused on my friends and I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm not paying attention to connect like that. And it doesn't matter. People will come up and start talking to me. And then spirit, the dead, come up. So then people are intrigued and also frightened. And at the same time, because I'm never alone, Asriel or another being, depending on what's the situation, it's like, hey. And I'm like, it's all happening in here, right? Because they can communicate internally. You don't have to physically open your mouth, or they have to do that to speak with you. So the communication's occurring in here. And they're like, hey. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like this, talking to whoever or listening or whatever. And meanwhile, I'm having like another conversation. And then all this like this separate conversation happens in here. And that information, depending on the situation, can be delivered to the individual, or spirit is saying, do not engage with this individual. And then, of course, there are times where I'm like, I can immediately feel it. So I take my instincts very seriously when I'm with other individuals whom I don't know. That does not mean to not be courteous, and that does not mean also to be disrespectful. It does not mean that at all. And again, like, I'm not here to cause anyone discomfort, and I'm not going to apologize. If I'm out and I'm doing something and the intention for the day is not to focus on someone else's stuff, I also would really like the individuals, humans, to also be respectful. Some people are really good at it, and that's when you make an appointment. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Sometimes you make an appointment that's professional then. And then sometimes the dead, they don't have a lot of boundaries. So it really depends on the situation. So, for example, I went out to an antique shop. At the antique shop, which is very large, there was the back of the antique shop, and when you go in, it's kind of like an L shape. So I go down, and as soon as I'm walking down to make it to the corner before you have to hook the left to go all the way down, I feel and I see a woman from another time. And she's in the corner. And she sees me, and she's like, no, and she gets bothered, and doesn't want me in the space. So, ew? Like, I know you're there. Shut up, lady. And I just, now look, don't be judgy-wudgy, okay? I have, as a human, and also as a being that is completely aware of what they are, you're not going to tell me what the heck I'm going to do. So if I'm going into a space, I'm not being disrespectful, and some people might be like, oh, but you're in their space. You're here, that woman was there because of the objects in the space I'm passing through. and the woman didn't like me. I completely triggered her. Now, I'm not being disrespectful. I saw this woman, and I acknowledged her, and I continued. Now, when I go somewhere, I don't go unescorted. So I was with my lookout. My lookout immediately saw what was going on, and immediately went to the woman and was like, stop, like, what's your problem? And the woman was like, and mind you, my back is to them, and I'm trying to, like, look around, looking at tchotchkes and just, like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm hearing their conversation happening behind me, and my lookout is like, hey, like, what's the matter with you? She's just, you know, like, minding her business. You need to mind your business. And the being's like, no, like, she shouldn't be here. And I'm like, what is your problem? I think that she was disturbed by how I looked, which is like, lady, you're like 200 years late. Go away. So immediately my lookout was like, Alma, you have to leave. Like, just go. Because she was making me feel a lot of pressure in my body. And I was like, what? You know, I was like, you know what? I turned around because I was taking my time. So the pressure was intensifying, and I was like, you're not going to tell me what to do. Like, what's your problem, woman? Because if I wanted to, I could remove you. And I can't. So, and I mean by myself. I'm not trying to show off. It's just, I know my shit. So I turn around and I'm like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. I'm having a tiny little, like, escape for the day, walking into this antique shop. I don't want to be disturbed. So immediately I'm like, Azrael! He immediately shows up. And my lookout stepped away. Azrael stepped forward and was like, enough. Stop. And she pushed herself back. And Azrael was like, go ahead. Like, telling me that, like, you can pass, you can go through. And by that point, I had already finished. And I left. And my lookout was like, are you all right? Are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I was like, that doesn't always happen. That was very dramatic. So I didn't inquire further as to what the hell was going on. However, I'm mentioning it. I mean, I can. Just honestly, like, mediumship 101, right? Given. You always are protected. You have to secure your energy field, your physical body, completely. There are certain things that a medium knows to do, and also psychically to prepare. And I was not attacked. The energy in the space was intensified, so I could feel the discomfort of this being, and I did. That's fine. I did not leave damaged, and I did not leave, like, haunted by this being. No, this being was very specifically placed in that space because the objects in that space are her objects. And this is also, like, someone that going through unresolved life events, and they're intelligent. So there's a lot of layers there with the dead. I am respectful, and also, like, don't touch me. Because if I wanted to, I could have removed her out of there. Because her frequency, her frequency was not as strong as mine. I skeeted her out of there. I didn't want to be rude. And let me finish looking. So just to surmise the end of that situation, that experience, that sometimes that happens. And sometimes it's not like that. It's not like that. So, last January, at the beginning of 2025, I had this magnificent experience where I had a solo art show in Brooklyn, New York at Tiger Strikes Asteroid. And while I was installing my work, I was, through the connections with the artists in the gallery, I befriended a couple, and the couple were wonderful, and they allowed me to stay in the family, like his family's home. It's been their home for over 100 years. And it was fabulous. So now, very haunted. So as soon, I had never been there before. So when I went there, immediately I'm like, this is haunted. No shit. Just because the building's over 100 years old, that's not the giveaway. You can feel it. There are so many things that can look haunted, and it doesn't work that way. You could feel it. So the gentleman's father, that was his home, and he passed away. So a lot of his things were still there, his home. So when I was there a few days, and during my stay, the dad would check in. And he was like, hello. And I'm like, hi. That's it. That's it. He just wanted to say hello. And I'm like, hi. Thank you for letting me stay here. Really appreciate it. That's it. On a few occasions, I would see him and he would look at me and I acknowledge him. There was photos of him throughout the home, and the power of his spirit was so strong that even when I first saw the photo, I was like, before I physically saw him in the home, I was like, he's here. Like, you can feel him so viscerally. And then later on, I did see him. And since the home was very large, like those old school, like brownstones, and this one was in a state of needing a lot of repair. So a lot of the current state of the home, in my experience, also accelerates what's going on, and I'm completely new. And like Azrael said to me before, and I'm aware of this, and this could apply to you too. If you're someone that works with spirit, you glow in the dark. You're like a little glow in the dark star. You glow in the dark, so they're gonna see you. While I was there, yes, of course the father was there, the dad, and he'd pop in. He was a musician, and he was really cool. He was really cool. Didn't have a problem with him at all. Fine, very casual. And then there were times too, there was the upstairs, and that's where the son of the father who passed away, his girlfriend had a studio upstairs. And so that was a different situation up there. So I would see a being, and the being looked all like erratic. Ran down the stairs, looked around, and then ran back up. But they looked like they were just completely distorted. And I had an exhausting time going to and from the gallery, installing, meeting friends and family, the reception. It was a lot. So I was so exhausted that there's many times, not even in that situation, just going to the supermarket, going anywhere, where I'll see spirit and I don't fully inquire, like, why, who. It's just kind of like you're driving, minding your business, you're doing whatever you're doing, and you just kind of see people walking around. Like, you just don't always tune in to pay attention. Sometimes that is not always the case. So this erratic woman, I saw this woman, and I was like, okay, cool. And that was that. I saw her once. And that was it. I saw the dad a lot more. And it's not just, like, those people that were in that house. I know there were others. However, not everyone is always so willing to be like, hey, like, they're just around. And I'm respectful. I'm not going to be like, who are you? Why? Why? If you're, like, going out somewhere, are you wanting to know everybody? Just mind your business. I'm very private. So and it's also, like, kind of, like, ridiculous because I'm on this and I'm like, hey, I'm still, like, I'm selective and I'm private, so I'm not going to be, like, in your business.